Hello and welcome once again to another episode of The Real Franchise. This is a video series designed to deliver real information, real answers and real insights into franchising. This is actually part two of a series. Part one was looking at evaluating three key questions to help you determine a key life change. And if at the end of that video, part one, you determine that, hey, business ownership could be a possibility, something to dig deeper into, this episode's for you. Because in this episode, we're going to dive into the three different ways of getting into a business. And we're going to have a look at the advantages, the disadvantages of each. And so for this discussion, I'm joined today, once again, by our CEO, Rhiannon Simcox. Thank you, Rhiannon, for joining us.
A pleasure.
Well, Rhiannon, it's really good to get back into part two of this discussion. So we've just had the discussion on the three questions to look at into determining whether or not employment or self-employment is possibly the best option. So this episode, we're picking up where people have gone, you know what? Business ownership could be for me, and I want to evaluate a little bit further. Now, not all business ownership options are the same. You mentioned in the previous video that often people just think, oh, there's only one option. Would you mind just sort of opening that up a little bit further for us?
Yep. Even before working with James, I was working in the space of helping people start businesses. And one of the major mistakes that I saw was people made a fast decision that didn't necessarily take into account all of the different elements, whether business ownership was actually right for them, right for their family, right for their goals. And they skipped all the way from, I hate my boss, I hate the 9-to-5 grind, all of the normal complaints of employment that generally lead to I'm going to start my own business. They skipped ahead from that to the jumping into Canva and creating a logo because they had an idea last night at 2 a.m. and they're going to execute on it, right? I saw people go from, I hate my boss, leave work at 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. in the morning, there's an idea, and by 5 p.m. the next day they've started a Facebook page for their business, right? It's too short a process to allow anybody to actually have thought it through thoroughly, have done their homework, genuinely looked at the different and the varying pathways that you can take to get into business ownership. And that's what this part of the discussion is all about. What are those different pathways? What do they look like? How do you actually evaluate after you've started to think, okay, business ownership might suit me? Then you need to actually evaluate what pathway to business ownership might be best for you. Don't skip ahead to a logo and an ABN just yet. You're not ready.
Yeah. So to help us in our discussion and to help those listening, we've got once again a little slideshow. So here are the three choices. We think, there's lots of different businesses, lots of different options to get down to, but to use to get into a business. I think in our discussions in preparing for this, we really sort of isolated this. There's three key pathways, three different ways of getting into it. And I think the right choice for any individual, like you've just talked about, depends on your goals, your experience, your financial position, appetite for risk, these sorts of things we talked about in part one of this series. And also a biggie is the level of support that you want around you. So today we're going to look at three different pathways. First one, DIY, do it yourself. Second one is buying an existing business. All right, that's a very valid option, a very valid way of getting into a business. And the third pathway is supported business ownership. And each of these has advantages and disadvantages. And so we're going to dive into these in a bit more depth. So let's jump into the first one, doing it yourself. Right. Rhiannon, I might let you dive in. What does doing it yourself mean in a business?
You are on your own, and that's a good thing and a bad thing.
Yes.
There are people that DIY a business startup every single day. We start thousands, if not tens of thousands of businesses in Australia every single year. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that based on absolutely no data at all, but my gut feel, 99% of those businesses are started as a DIY. The advantages of that: total control, absolute total control. You don't answer to anyone. It's just you, which means that you get to create your own brand. You get to create the character of this business that you're building. You get to genuinely set how you work, when you work, why you work. You can say no to people. You can say no to clients. You are in total and complete control of this thing you're working on building. And you get to build something from scratch by yourself from day one, which for a lot of people is exactly the reason they do this. That feeling of this is mine, that feeling of this is something that I'm creating for me.
Yes.
Lots of challenges that come with that, because it is just you, which means that it's you figuring it out. It's you self-motivating on the tough days. It's you answering the phones, booking the jobs, solving the problems, building the website, being the IT person, figuring out how to integrate your different software apps into the back end of your website. It's you handling that PR crisis that popped up because you put a reel on Facebook that you didn't really realize was going to piss a few people off. Like, it's you. It's all you, right? And so it's you, and that's great. You're fully in control, and that's why so many people love this option. But it's also you when things aren't going to plan. It's you when it's not working. It's you when it's not making the money that you need it to make. It's you who's the problem solver. It's you who's the bookkeeper and the accountant, all of the hats, right? So you're going to spend a lot of time figuring things out, trialing and erroring, which probably means you're going to take longer to get to profitability. That's something to think about. And more responsibility. You know, the buck stops with you. There ain't nobody else that you can handball that to. So it totally depends on whether the advantages excite you more than the challenges make you want to run for the hills. That's the question here.
Yep. Now, I've DIY'd a few of my own businesses, and I'm now in a different business model, which we'll get to as one of the other options. But this is something I think, and you hinted on this in the first part of this series. Social media has just glorified the DIY. You know, jump on and watch this educational video or whatever, free help for this and that, and do it yourself. It's all possible. And even in our culture, the Aussie culture, you know, that dream of buy your own home, work for yourself, you know, that's what we're all about. And we glorify. And we don't look. I find it's the people that don't do the research. This whole 2-part series is about helping people do their research. The challenge is it's those that don't do their research that often jump into DIY because they think it's cheaper. They have total control. It's all their new beauty. It's me. No one can tell me what to do. The flip side, and you and I do a weekly podcast called The Real Franchise. So if you are listening, feel free to jump onto that and listen, because in the last month or so, we've done a few episodes on this, haven't we? But the reality, yes, there's advantages, as we're saying, of the DIY, but there's some significant ones you need to really think about. And what I've seen, the financial ones are biggie. People go, oh, it's cheaper. But if it doesn't work out, my goodness, it can be very, very costly for people who DIY. And that's my personal big caution, because we have people come to us in our business all the time who have tried DIY, and you don't know what you don't know. And
there's lots of blind spots in DIY. There certainly are. And so, you know, that can be one of the challenges, is that there are lots of blind spots. I can guarantee they're going to exist. I can also guarantee you probably don't know where they're going to be hanging out. But I think that to balance the conversation, you know, that element of being totally in control is very appealing to a lot of people, particularly coming off of the back of maybe a really regimented sort of a 9 to 5, or maybe, you know, a boss that you didn't really get along with, or maybe you worked in a larger workplace where you were in a senior position, but you could see how, you know, the leadership affected the morale of absolutely everyone that worked there. And you thought, you know what? I could build a team and I could do this better and I could give these same incredible people a great opportunity, right? There's so many different triggers for someone to go, you know what, I might jump into business ownership. And yeah, there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of blind spots. But I think to balance the conversation, it is about making sure that you're just genuinely weighing up and going in eyes open. Because I think what we do is we naturally glorify the DIY option as Aussies. It's part of our identity of having a crack.
Yep.
But also a lot of people have a crack and do good and build great businesses, right? It's just about weighing up, where does your risk appetite sit? Really, that's what it's going to come down to. And, you know, what is more important? Is it having that total control and really being able to run to your own tune, versus is it more important to you that you have, you know, a team of experts around you that can hold you up when you need it and that can spot those blind spots before you have and that can save you time? It's a balancing act. It really is. And it's a balancing act to the point that we can't give anybody an answer because it's so incredibly individual.
Yes, and really individual too on what you're looking at going into. You know, I had a family visiting. We went to a cafe the other day for a coffee, right? And, you know, so people watching this might be thinking, great, I'm going to open my own coffee shop. The cafe we went to was absolutely packed, and it was brilliant. Had a great time. Had to go to the loo, got the key, walked down the corridor to the loo, and down the corridor there's another coffee shop. And without any word of a lie, and it's a big coffee shop, right? Without any word of a lie, not a single person in that coffee shop. And your face just said it all. That's how I felt for that guy standing behind the counter waiting. And the whole, you know, he would have started DIY. He did start DIY. Would have had all these hopes and dreams, just like the other individual in the coffee shop we were in. But I think maybe not done the research, you know, didn't know what he didn't know, those sorts of things. So I encourage you, if this is the pathway you're going to, I just really encourage you to really do your research, really know your stuff, know your industry, know what you're getting into, you know, because just looking at that with my experience in business, there's just a couple of key things that he didn't think of and made, you know, probably a poor decision, which sadly, I think just on that brief interaction, I think he's not going to make it. He's going to be a statistic, whereas the other person is obviously doing really, really well.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things to consider when you look at the DIY model. And I think that really just highlights that it's, you know, both those two business owners started on the same start line. Both of them had the same end goal, right? To get to the finish line, profitable, successful businesses. And so something happened between the start line and the finish line of that second business that means that maybe they won't get to the finish line. I think that if you're going to go down the DIY route, make sure that you're prepared that if you get halfway through the race and it ain't going how you wanted, make sure you're prepared to take full and absolute accountability for that, and then understand that you're the one responsible for figuring it out. You have to figure out how to get to the end of that race. No one's coming to save you. And I think that if you go DIY, it just increases the onus on you to do your homework, take accountability, be prepared to take full responsibility for the outcomes in your business, because you can so easily end up halfway through the race not quite sure why it ain't going your way.
Yeah, that's good. So that's the first way. Do it yourself. Let's jump in and have a look at the second way, because buy an existing business. Now, you used to, in a previous role, help people in this space. So I might let you, as the expert, talk on this one.
In a previous role, in a previous life, I was a business broker and we sold multi-million-dollar businesses mostly off market. I felt like a secret agent. It was so much fun. Most of the time I sold a business and absolutely no one knew it was for sale except for the seller and the buyer. That was great fun. Why would you buy an existing business? Well, because you want the control and the freedom of the DIY model, but you don't want the learning curve of the startup phase. You might buy an existing business because you want existing revenue. You just want to pelt the ground running, and you've got capital. You have to have capital, obviously. If you've got nothing in the bank, this ain't an option for you, because any business worth buying is worth something. So you've got to have capital for this option. You've got existing customers. I mean, you should have existing customers if you're buying an existing business, right? And so you've got that security from your day one that there's going to be some money rolling in. So that helps with things like your own bills, continuing the business's bills, paying the staff, all of those sorts of things. It's a known market. So hopefully you get a really good handover from the previous business owner and they teach you everything they know about this business of theirs. And so you go in eyes open with somebody who's literally been walking the walk for the last X number of years, showing you the way. Super helpful. And established processes, because there's one thing about getting to the finish line, and that is that you will fall to your processes. If your processes are terrible, your business will be terrible. If your processes are good, you're in with a shot. And so buying an existing business buys existing processes.
Yep.
Some challenges here. High entry cost. You're going to require capital because now you need to outlay for the purchase of the business and you need to have working capital. Now, if you're buying an existing operational business, you really want to understand the financials of that business. You want to understand the weekly cash out, and you have to be able to support that as well as your own life. So doing your financial due diligence becomes really important when buying an existing business. Legacy issues, please spend your time researching the reputation of this business. Now, it's not to say if a business has had a bit of a challenging past that you should pass it by. It's just that you need to have your eyes open. You need to know what you're dealing with. You need to know if you're going to run a promotion or a campaign and you're going to be shot down in your local market because you're on the nose, right? You have to go in with your eyes open. Existing reputation, that can be a challenge as well as a good thing. Hopefully it's a good thing. But if you're buying a little bit of a fixer-upper, then existing reputation can be one of the biggest challenges that you have in the marketplace. I also see it often as an opportunity. It was an opportunity for turnaround. You know, the under new management signs, they exist for a reason because it's a fresh start and you get to be judged by your own merits rather than somebody else's. So it can be a good or a bad thing. Less flexibility. My favourite call to make was day of settlement, to say, congratulations, you've just bought yourself a business. You're now ultimately responsible for these 50 staff and for X, tens of millions of turnover. Good luck. That was my favourite phone call. I issued it with one piece of stern advice. Don't touch anything for at least 6 months.
6 months. Yeah.
Don't touch a thing. No, you don't know this business better than the people who have been running it for the last 2 years. No, you don't know the customers better. No, your marketing idea isn't going to be better. No, you don't know the staff better. Don't touch a thing. Sit back, observe. That's not to say that you can't improve this business. I'm positive you probably think you can. That's why you've bought it. You see opportunity. But don't touch anything until you fully understand how it's operating. So what we mean here in the challenges by less flexibility is you're going to have to sit on those hands of yours for a good 6 to 8 months before you start making changes. So if you're looking for something super fast-paced, be able to come in, do a turnaround management immediately, like if you're looking for that adrenaline hit, then buying a good quality existing business is really going to challenge you, because you're going to screw it up real quick if you go in to make all the big changes really quickly.
That's it. So I would agree. For me, a couple of things, because as you were involved in the due diligence on us buying the national business that you're now CEO for and that I'm part owner of. So I've been in then. We also sell businesses in our business or help people buy existing businesses in our network. I think some of the key things I've seen in my personal journey and in the journey of others is really understand why someone's selling. If you're looking at exist, because it's a great way to get into a business if you've got capital, like you said, but really understand why they're selling, because often someone will have the story they tell you up front, but what's the real reason, right? And make sure you understand that, and can you handle that and work with that? Is it something, like you said, the turnaround that you can bring to the business? Because sometimes what you're initially told isn't the real story. Just a caution there.
Yeah, the due diligence part is really important. And for anybody who's not been anywhere near this space, due diligence is just a fancy industry way of saying investigating the credentials of the business before you buy it, right? So you go to contract, i.e. you sign a contract just like you do for a house to say, I'm going to buy this business, I'm going to buy this house, give us 60 days and then we'll exchange the money and the documents and Bob's your auntie, right? So you enter into a contract and you should make that contract subject to a due diligence period. And in that period of time, basically you get free access to the business's records to do your homework. And so to exactly your point, use that period of time, use every minute of it just to truly validate that what you've bought is exactly what you were sold. Make sure you find any skeletons in the closet in that period, basically. Again, it's not that skeletons in the closet are a bad thing. It's just that you want to know they're there so that you know what you're going to be working with when you get in.
Yep. And those are sort of the legacy issues that we're sort of hitting here as possible challenges. I mean, every business has legacy issues. Every business has a reputation. It has our systems and processes. So, and like you said, I agree. I've seen so many people buy even one of our businesses that was running really well and come in and on day one start trying to change everything. And it's like, no, run with that business for 6 months, then bring your flavour with the knowledge of having worked in it for 6 months.
Buying an existing business is a really good way to learn very quickly about what running a business is all about, right? Because you kind of skip the build stage and the startup phase, which is just you basically running around like a headless chook trying to figure it all out, to be honest. You skip all of that and you get to sit back and watch your team run this business that you've just bought, and you just get to be a sponge. And so if you've never really run a business before or don't have a lot of experience in business, but you've got capital and you don't really want the hard yards of the startup phase, and you just want to walk into something that's already running and then maybe, improve it over time, then this is such a great way to do that, because you get like a university degree and a TAFE course all in one while you're actually doing the do of having a business. It's a great option for somebody who wants to learn but wants to skip like the really kind of gory part of building it from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to encourage anyone listening to this who is really set on the DIY that, hey, sometimes, yes, it's a high entry cost, but you're kidding yourself if you think DIY doesn't come with a significant cost, right? Even if it's, it might only cost me X number of a few $1,000s to buy all the gear I need, but you're going to have marketing costs, you're going to have setup costs, you're going to take a lot longer to get your income going. So I encourage you to sit down and have a look at what could that cost really look like, because you may be able to pick up a good turnaround business that's an existing one that you can walk in and buy for similar capital, and it's already got existing customers, and so it may actually be a less risky option, or it should be a much less risky option than a DIY.
Yeah, I think it's part of weighing up what's important to you is income, right? Yeah. How much, how fast, and what kind of risk appetite have you got when it comes to the income? side of this equation. So it's something you should really think about is where do you sit on the how much income and how quickly do you want to be earning it? And then, if you're there's just a melting pot of so many things, like go a DIY startup if you want absolute full control and you don't necessarily need to be earning squillions from day one, right? You just need to earn a little bit just to prop up the family bills, right? Then a DIY option is great for you. If you need to be earning a little bit more of a stable income because maybe it's just you supporting your family, but you've got the capital sitting there available, then this is maybe the kind of thing to think about rather than, the risk of that build and that startup phase and that whole question of how long is it going to take before I've sort of, replaced the income of a normal 9 to 5. It's just so many things to balance out.
Yep. That's good. So that's the second. So first option, DIY. Second way of getting into a business is buying an existing one. The third option that I want to look at is supported business ownership. So what does this mean, Rhiannon?
This is our favourite slide. This slide comes with a big fat caveat. Obviously, the branding is behind Justin on screen. We both work for a company called James Home Services Australia, and what we do and what we have been doing in this country for the last 35 years almost is helping people start their own businesses within our business network. And so we are this slide, which means we are totally and utterly biased. But today, for the next 20 minutes, we're going to try and be as balanced as we possibly can be for the benefit of those listening, because we have really tried to keep this conversation as balanced as possible. It would be so easy for you and I to slip into normal mode of, DIY's rubbish, don't do that. We've tried to keep it balanced. So, advantages and challenges. Let's, before we dive into those, talk about what is supported business ownership. We fall into this category. We're a business network that helps other people start their businesses within our network, which means that we do all of the things that are listed in the advantages. We do systems and support. We have a brand that's well recognised in this country in our sector. We have very thorough training processes, and we simply have a faster start model. That's it. The data shows us we know how to get businesses started, full stop. There are other ways, however, to start a business under a supported model. There are, you can go out and you can get your own business coach to guide you through that startup phase. There are almost endless government grants, programs and opportunities that also provide support to people starting a business. I will say that the grants and the getting a business coach isn't like, I would describe what we do as a full service business startup, whereas a business coach is going to focus on what they're really strong at. And the government grants are going to focus on whatever the objectives of those programs were. And I can say that with authority, having been inside those government grants in a previous job for 10 years. So those are probably less full service, but also very valuable options in this space. Let's be very clear about some of the challenges of a supported business ownership model. And these are some of the reasons that people don't choose to start with a network like us. There are ongoing fees. It is a fee-for-service model. We deliver a service to you, that is, all of the stuff listed under the advantages, and when you receive a benefit, you have to pay for it. And so that's what ongoing fees do. They pay for the service that we deliver to you. If ongoing fees are something that you absolutely don't want a bar of, don't sign up to a supported business startup model. There's shared standards. We have very high. Our own brand is very much built on high service standards, quality standards. That's how we differentiate in the marketplace. We're a very low barrier to entry service model, which means that almost anybody can do it, which means that the way that we differentiate our business owners is by quality of service. And so we have high standards, and that means that our business owners must uphold those high standards. So when you're starting and looking at a supported business ownership model, you have to make sure that the morals, ethics, standards, quality, etc. of the network that you're looking at working with is going to be naturally aligned with you. Otherwise, you're going to clash, and that's not fun for either party. you do have less independence. You know, for example, your business model that you've joined is going to have systems and processes, and you're going to want to follow them if you want to get the outcome of a successful business. That's why those systems and processes exist. And so you don't have the independence to go, yeah, I'm going to market this way because I want to. What you should do when you're in one of these models is go, I'm going to market the way that I've been trained to market, because that's the marketing that's going to get the outcome of a fast start, a profitable business, larger margins, the right kind of clientele, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you do have less independence, and that is something that you got to weigh up. And there is a need to follow process. I'm not going to mince my words. Do not start a business with a supported business ownership model if you are not prepared to follow the processes that they have in place and the systems that they have in place. So, for example, we've been doing this for almost 35 years in Australia. Our systems are down. They are down. They are down as in like sorted, refined to a T. We have devised the perfect way to start a business in our sector as fast as possible, as low cost as possible, and with minimal effort as possible to still get the outcome of a profitable business at pace. However, you only get those outcomes if you follow the systems we've designed. And if you don't, you don't get the outcomes. It's really that simple. So if you're not a systems person, this isn't going to be for you. It's kind of that simple.
Yeah. Yep. Boy, this is a hard one, isn't it? When you're
it's so hard.
Because, you know, those every point you're saying, you know, the processes. Why do we have such good processes? Because they ensure your success. If you come this way, you know, like we've invented this thing called the subscription model. It's only $1,000 to join us, yet we guarantee you from the third week at least $1,500 a week. How can we only accept $1,000 and then guarantee $1,500 a week? Because we know if people follow our processes, they're going to get the results. And I guess if on a sliding scale you were looking at possible risk, you know, versus cost, yeah, DIY, if you look at the government statistics, is probably the highest rate of failure, most risky way to start a business. Next would be takeovers, buying an existing. Probably the lowest risk, if you're the right sort of individual that are prepared to work within a system, would be a supported startup. I mean, it's support, you know. Why does a footy team have a business coach? Because they get a better outcome if they have a good coach.
Yeah.
And part of the support is having that team of experts. Like for myself, in my first business, I quickly learned some of the things I didn't know. I have no idea about marketing, right? And I wasted tens of thousands of dollars on advertising because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
In a supported startup, like I know in our business, we have an expert marketing team. You know, all the people that work with us that are contracted to us have, you know, decades of experience in this space, get great results, and you've got that team working for you in a supported business model.
I think what makes it easier for me to look at this slide and talk about the challenges is just the knowledge of the people who have struggled in our network and why they've struggled. And I guess that really highlights where DIY would serve you better than a supported business startup model is where you're really not interested in following somebody else's system. Is where you're really not interested in working alongside like a business coach, support person, where they're going to give you guidance, point you down the road, and then you have to take responsibility for implementation. If you're not interested in working alongside somebody like that, you're going to struggle in our network. If you're not interested in holding yourself accountable to doing the things you need to do even when it's hard, right? When you're in a DIY model option, if you get out of bed one day and think, I can't be bothered doing my marketing today, whatever, right? There's nobody else to say, oi, Go and do it anyway. What do you think? You think you're going to get a six-pack by never showing up to the gym? Come on, get out of there, Yes. There's nobody saying that to you, whereas in our model there is. And that will rub you the wrong way if you don't want that kind of support. If you do want that kind of support, then this could work for you. But if that is going to grate with you, if you're leaving a 9 to 5 because, the boss telling you what to do every day, micromanaging you, if you really had it in for your boss, even though they were a fully decent person, you just didn't like answering to another person, then you are probably going to struggle in our model because we're not your boss, but we still give you guidance to increase the chance that you can get to the destination you're joined up to get to, which is a profitable business. So it's just all about weighing it up. But there are people that are not suited to our model. And if any of those comments I've just made really particularly resonate with you, then I just don't think that what we do is I don't think any supported business startup model is good for you. I think the DIY is the option you should choose.
Yeah. Which I think really leads us back to how we ended the last video is, a good decision isn't a fast decision. And each of those things, like you said, it's about researching. Even once you think, okay, supported model is best for me or DIY is best for me, then your research really starts, doesn't it? Once you start to go down a particular rabbit hole, that's when you really got to start to do your research. And so I guess this last section, as we sort of come to the end of this discussion, is just talking about how to research and how to look at the different options. Because, you might be sitting there going, well, it all sounds good, Justin and Rhiannon, but, what do I do? How do I check out? So I thought over the next couple of minutes, we could just sort of flesh this out a bit. So I've got a slide here with a few things on it. Speak with other business owners. So just walk me through how that possibly could look in each of those different startups. So how do you talk to someone in a DIY? How do you get to talk to someone in a supported business model or an existing business for sale? Would you mind running through the three options there with that one?
Whatever option you choose, I would open up trusty old Google and I would Google somebody doing the business I think I might do in my area, and I'd pick up the phone. I'd literally pick up the phone.
Yep.
Hey, mate, I'm thinking about starting a business. You're a few suburbs over from me. I don't think we'd be direct competition, but I'd love to catch up with you for a beer or a coffee. I'd really like to discuss and networking. Networking
Yep.
is important, and Google, just pick up the phone. There's absolutely the best way to learn is talking to people and asking people who are actually doing it, right? Don't worry about your barbecue mafia. Take that with a grain of salt, right? They're great friends and family who have your best interests at heart, but unless that information is coming from a place of knowledge and a place of experience, just bear that in mind. You want to talk to people who are actually doing it. Been there, done that, bought the T-shirt. Find those people, talk to them.
Yep. And, for those listening, that's exactly why we have it as part of our normal process. When everyone that's looking at joining us, we literally connect them with as many people as they want in the organisation so that they can have those discussions.
Because it's important.
So important.
Yeah.
Continue learning. What do we mean by that?
Google, again, I think I might answer Google to all of these. Continue learning. Take responsibility for going and finding the information that you're looking for, right? Google's a great spot. Also, use an LLM of your choice, right? Use ChatGPT, use Claude, use whatever AI model you naturally fall to and ask it questions. Ask it to take you through a decision-making process about the way you should start a business, right?
Yeah.
Ask it. Tell it you're about to jump into Canva and design a logo, and then tell it to convince you not to and take you through a proper process, right? Use modern technology to your absolute advantage to learn more. And when you think you've learned enough, you've only learned about 10% of what you need to learn. And so keep learning. It's self-education is one of the most important things someone can recognize as valuable.
Yes.
The ability to educate yourself and inform yourself. And indeed, that's what these 2 episodes have been. You know, you've sat and you've watched these or you've listened, however you've consumed this content. This is part of your self-education journey. And to inform yourself is incredibly responsible. You're putting yourself in a position where you can actually make this decision with a level of clarity and certainty that most people never get to. And so it's incredibly important to continue learning.
Yeah. And I would say that never ends. I mean, it's throughout life. The example I gave of those 2 cafes earlier, the only way that individual is going to turn his businesses around is by that there.
That's right.
Go and do some digging to find some answers and then apply. You know, and if he needs help, he's going to have to get help to help apply those things. Like, there were so many things I felt like saying to him, but you know, it's
his journey.
Very weird. It's his journey.
Or their journey.
Yeah. So continue learning. Involve family. Well, that comes with a caveat. But what do we mean by that?
Your family, I hope for you, your family are your biggest cheerleader and supporter. I certainly know that I am fortunate enough in this lifetime to have a family that is my biggest cheerleader. I've learned that also comes with its own drawbacks, which is that they aren't, or whilst they care more about me than anybody else cares about me, they don't always have the expertise required to genuinely comment on a particular topic or something that I'm looking to do. And so bear that thought in mind when you go to your family or your friends or colleagues or anybody that is important in your world and you take to them this concept of, hey, I think I might start a business. They're going to have an opinion. Everyone has an opinion on starting a business. And depending on what their own background, what their own knowledge, what their own experience is, that's either an opinion or it's more factual. If it's just opinion, be mindful that opinions a lot of the time are rooted in fear. What you want to do is you want to look for family members who have done it. You want to look for family members that have their own business. You want to look for family members that have done the DIY route and can genuinely comment on the challenges and the good parts and help you weigh those up. So you want to lean on your friends and family where they're commenting from a place of expertise and genuine knowledge. But you do want to really bear in mind that opinions aren't as useful, particularly not ones that are rooted in fear. Because if they've never done it before, how do they know it's a scary thing? How do they know that, you know, a DIY is not a good option or buying an existing isn't a good option or a supported model isn't a good option? They've got an opinion and that's theirs. But what you're looking for is fact and experience and expertise and stuff that's got enough guts to it that it actually can help you in making your decision.
One of the little things I've seen, I'd like to touch on this, is if you're looking at getting into your own business and starting that journey of learning and researching, and this is what this is all about. And if you're in a relationship, if you have a partner, a spouse, a wife, husband, etc., and I strongly encourage you right from the very earliest opportunity, even if this business is just something for you, involve them in the journey. And it's so important to have their support because there's nothing that can put pressure more on a relationship than you starting something or going down a particular pathway and not having their support. It is invaluable. We do this. It's my world. It's what I do every day. And, you know, just had a meeting this morning with a guy who I'm doing another meeting to introduce him to some of our business owners on Thursday night. And he's now bringing his partner along to that meeting so that she can be involved, she can meet, she can ask her concerns and get to really understand it as well, because it's so good to be able to support one another. I mean, I guess the same goes even if you're looking for a job, you know, to really be open with your spouse, because that support is invaluable. At some point in time, whatever you do, you're going to need that support and help. You don't want resentment forming between each other over something that you've gone and done, because they'll have a different perspective on things, which can be great. They can ask different questions and things like that. So, yeah, involve your family, involve your spouse at the very earliest opportunity. Research the industry. This is a biggie. Before I joined James, I had my own business as a consultant, helping people in small business in our regional area. And I know you were in a similar type organisation, and I'm sure you observed this. Did you observe often people had great ideas, lots of passion, and were going to jump into doing something, but hadn't actually checked out really whether there was a market, whether the location was right, just hadn't done their homework? And I guess this is what this is addressing, isn't it?
Totally. I literally opened Facebook last night for a quick scroll, and a girlfriend of mine that I used to work with in the wedding industry in far north Queensland had launched a business that is literally a copy of another business that's very successful and been in the space for about a decade now. And I just thought, wow, you just didn't even stop to research what the field was doing, right? Let's talk about this like a footy game. You got to know who's on the field. You got to know where the field is. You got to know where all the players play, their positions. You got to understand all that stuff before you jump. Yeah, do not shortcut researching the industry. You got to research your customers. You got to research the market. You got to prove your business model. You got to prove it's going to work. You got to know who else is out there doing it and what they're doing and whether that's working for them or not working for them. Skipping this is a shortcut to failure. Yeah, I don't think that her business is going to be around for very long. I think that it's probably going to be one of the statistics, and I think that probably, I would like to think I don't think she even did the research. I just don't think she did. So it's really important. If you're thinking about getting into a particular space, don't just research what the pathway in looks like, but just stop for a second and go, should I even do this? Is this an industry? You know, my partner one day, I remember like 10 years ago, back in the days where we were all going into the office for our jobs, and he was ironing a corporate shirt every day for work, right? One day he comes into wherever I am in the house and he says to me, Ree, I've got an idea. I should make a cordless iron. And he's, waving this iron up in front of me with a cord dangling. He's like, this thing is really frustrating. I should make a cordless iron. I literally pulled out my phone, Googled cordless iron, and here it was, So there's great ideas, but most of them have already been done. Just, Google. Just do a quick Google.
Yep. Very good. Ask difficult questions. This one is one I'll jump into right up front. We said earlier about catching up with people in whichever one you're looking at doing, talking to people. You said get on the phone, or, if it's with a supported business model like ours, we're going to introduce you to business owners. Ask the difficult questions, right? And make sure you get answers, like valid answers. If you're researching at buying another business or joining an organisation like ours, ask them the tough questions and make sure you get answers, because I know one of the things we pride ourselves on, and it's for this very reason, is transparency. It's really, you've got to be able to get the information you need to make a good decision, not a fast decision.
Yeah, I wouldn't be worried about offending the person at the other end of your question, right? You have to put you and your family at the centre of this, and you need good, solid answers to the difficult questions and the questions that are the gnarly ones and the tricky ones. So ask them. And if you get what you feel is a fob off or an answer that isn't truthful or a vague answer, either dig deeper or run. Yep. Your gut isn't wrong.
And where you see smoke, there's usually fire.
Always, 100% of the time.
Yes, it's a really cool. Well, we're coming to the end. There's two more. Understand lifestyle realities. What do we mean by that when it comes to business ownership? I think we touched on it in our last part one.
It just goes back to understanding that the different models have different costs to your lifestyle. There are all the benefits of owning a business that come from owning a business, the flexibility and the freedom and the control and the work life, all of that, right? But the thing is that nobody's talking about, the thing is, you got to earn the benefits. And so if you're doing a startup, DIY or supported, right, doesn't matter. If you're doing a startup, unless you're buying an existing, then you have to understand that it's a marathon before you get to the benefits. And so there are lifestyle realities of that. And it's part of being prepared. The third question of the first session was, are you prepared? One of those are you prepared questions is, are you prepared for the cost? And it is upfront a slog. It is upfront a lot of hours. It is upfront a lot of work. It is upfront a lot of problem solving. It is upfront motivating yourself when some days you're not going to feel like it. Those are some of the realities, and we should just be honest about that, because social media isn't being honest about it. Your friends and family, unless they've been in it, aren't going to be honest about it because they just simply don't know. Find people who have done what you're thinking about doing and ask them about the lifestyle realities, and make sure that that's a cost you're prepared to wear in order to get to the benefits and the outcomes.
Absolutely. And this last one to talk about is one, if you've got to this point, I really want to encourage you, because you're probably not making an emotional decision to have listened through these two, right? We both have seen plenty of people make an emotional decision. I have friends that have gone, you know what, I'm sick of my job. I want to do this. Like you were talking about with your partner, with it, imagine going and spending all this money developing a cordless iron because that was the passion, the emotion of the moment, and then going, oh, it's already done and they've done a better job at it than I was going to do. So head over heart.
Always. I mean, you and I both know that we have spoken to people, and when we ask, hey, what triggered you to make this inquiry today? Oh, my boss is, bit of a knob.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, there's got to be okay, Is there a little bit more of a thought process to this? If you're being reactive in life, the decision to start a business is not one of those decisions that should be a reactive decision. But I think you nailed it in your first statement. I think that anybody who's made it to the end of both of these two sessions is taking it as seriously as they should be. So I don't think we've got concerns about that, this group.
But for those that are here now. Well, just coming to wrap up, I know I've made this statement a bit, but just in closing, the goal is not to make a fast decision. The goal is to make a good decision. So I want to encourage you. Congratulations if you've made it to this point through the two sessions, because you're taking your time. My business coach said to me many years ago, and I've never forgotten, that if you're feeling pressured, just slow the game down. If someone's trying to pressure you to make a decision, pressure you to buy that existing business, pressure you to DIY, whatever it is, it's just a great lesson in life to just push back and go, whoa, let's just slow the game down. I'm going to take some more time. I need to find out more information. So I guess in closing, any parting words of advice? Because this is life-changing stuff for people that we've been digging into in these two sessions.
Yeah, I think my parting words of advice are, be honest with yourself. The questions that we asked you in the first session, were designed to sort of help guide you toward is this something you should think about, yay or nay? But I think that that's only effective if you're honest in the way that you answer them, So I think being honest with yourself is the most important thing. That, and being realistic about the work that is involved and not getting caught up in the fantasy of the outcome. The outcomes are there, right? The outcomes are there. Every time you open social media, the outcomes are being shown to you. But I just want people really to make sure that they've done their homework on the work that it does take to get there. So be honest with yourself when you answer those three questions, and be realistic about what it's going to take to make a business work.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Rhiannon. And
Pleasure.
thank you for, if you're listening to this, thank you for making it the whole way through. I hope you have got a lot out of it. And if you would like to know more, if we can assist you in any way at James Legal Services, feel free to reach out. We would be more than happy to help with a supportive business startup. But we'll talk you through the options. Take your time, dig deep, and have a good think like the two people sitting on the bench in the picture. And we wish you all the best in your journey.